I'm sure you're all old hands at this stuff. I think we've got like 20, 25 minutes, so it's not a huge amount of time, but I'll maybe just ask a few questions first so you can cogitate and reflect a little bit. And I see while we were just having a chat while the film was on, and he was telling me about the Dutch release, which involved people bringing their own donkeys to the film. Explain.
Yeah, it wasn't a requirement, but it happened. We have these photographs from the release in Holland, especially in small areas. People were coming with the small donkeys and putting the hay in the ground beside the poster, and just like sending us pictures. So it became kind of a animal sensation. We were very happy, to be honest, to have such a honorable visitors to the screenings.
Yeah, we didn't see any donkeys out in the foyer here, so maybe that'll be the next house in. I'll bring their donkeys. So one of the interesting things about the film is how much information you release about Manolo's particular situation. So there's this sort of real surprise moment at the end when his knee is really playing him up and then he's struggling a bit. And suddenly you say, "Are you all right, uncle?" And that's because he's your real uncle.
He's my uncle. And not only my uncle, he's the uncle of the three people that we are involved as, let's say, a screenwriter of the film. Because even if it's a documentary, obviously, many things happen in life, and you always have to somehow write a story out of it. And the story is like when we were kids, maybe 5, 6, 7-year-old, Manolo used to take us to the countryside for what he called adventures, which was basically the same things that you see in the film, just like going to nature, see wild animals, and just do small things, but they look extraordinary for us. One day, just Manolo, we stopped seeing Manolo, and we really didn't know what had happened. What had happened, it was like quite complicated divorce, and the two sides of the family, the sides of his nephews, and the other side was kind of like torn apart. Obviously, we didn't know anything. And 25 years later, somehow we want to reconnect with Manolo, and we visit him and say that this time we want to take him for an adventure, and that adventure is the film that we want to make with him. So we said, okay, we want to come back to the same places, or at least the countryside, and we did that, and I guess that learned us some very important, valuable lesson, if not lesson, at least insight about what filmmaking can be. Apart from telling a story, could be a way of bringing people together in particular ways. So yeah, he's our uncle, and that was like a 25 year later. So for us, when Gardel Volver sounds at the end, that return for us is a far more metaphorical kind of meaning of just like come back to where we were, even though 25 years later.
So it's a kind of a healing process all around, because in a way, as audience members, we just derive so much pleasure just from watching these spaces and seeing him relating to the animals. So, it's such a sort of healing film in a way to watch if you don't know anything. But in a way, the process was a healing thing for your family. And where has that kind of developed since then? Where are we now in terms of that kind of broken sort of sides of the family?
Yeah, I think Manolo is such a positive figure, and he's so happy, and he has been looking for freedom in the most kind of or in the deepest way of his meaning, and he has paid a huge price. But the man is very happy, and we're all very happy, and then he had, for instance, with my mother. My mother he loved Manolo when she was young, but it was so overwhelming, his physical presence for him. But after all this, my mother didn't want to see him, and it was when watching the films that we were making, the cat that she kept asking, "Oh, Chico, can I see the film again?" And I said, "But you saw it last week. Nothing have changed." But she will get very close to the laptop, and I said, "Oh, look at him! Look at his sense of humor! Look at his hands! Oh, we love this person so much." And it was very amazing to see how the screen was giving my mother and many other people the safe distance to appreciate this person, because what happened, it's just like it's just normal life, you just like couples get formed and broken, and sometimes those things are traumatic, but they're not such a big deal perhaps. And it was great to see how through the safe distance of the screen other people could engage with him. And even for us, we used to call Manolo Uncle or Tío Coño. We could translate an Uncle Damn or Uncle Fuck, because he was very short-tempered, very, very short-tempered. And when we started meeting him, it was like, okay, let's go home, let's have some nice food, a nice drink. And it wasn't the real person. But through filmmaking, especially when this little video to sponsor, when he can shout at the dogs, it was, oh, that's Uncle Dan again here. It was nice to see how filmmaking also is complex enough to go through the first impression of we all very happy together.
So you were editing this together with the editor. I think may actually be here. Yes, there he is, yeah. Nick. Very good job. In your mum's house, and sort of the family members were saying, well, who is going to be interested in this story about a donkey in some Spanish village in the middle of nowhere? So why do you think the film has kind of, really connected internationally? It's been in a lot of film festivals, won awards, all this sort of stuff.
I don't know if has connected with someone here, but if he has, maybe that's a question for them.
That's a question for them. Okay. Well, one of the things about the film is that, in a way, it is you sort of constructing or reconstructing your kind of image of this heroic character from your childhood. So that there's something that's constructed about it, but yet it's also a record of kind of real events. It's a real journey. They're out there on the road. So you kind of leave the audience in a way in between those two different points, which are, in a sense, the two different sort of poles of documentary film practice. Was that sort of what you were aiming for?
It's just I struggled to know whose story is this, because obviously we wanted to make a film with Manolo, and then at that time I was moving to live in US. And I knew that Manolo loved walking. And I said, okay, Manolo, I'm going to be there. Maybe one of these summers you can come and do one of those routes that you love. And he's so much into the gaucho and Indian culture with the poncho and all the Atahualpa Yupanqui and Cafrune and all this kind of gaucho culture. And I said, maybe we can do this Trail of Tears that you have spoken about a few times. And he said, okay, yeah, Chico, I would love to do that, but I always walk with Gorrión, so I will have to go with him. And then we were like, man, this sounds like a starting of a film. And we were all very romantic, thinking, okay, yeah, easy, let's phone. You don't like to fly, no problem. We're just going to London to the Queen Victoria, and then we go to New York or something like that with a donkey. It'll be fun, but then everything got complicated. But I don't know where the idea came from. It definitely came from a conversation. But I don't know if it's fiction or a documentary, in a sense that we were feeding each other. In a way, we were feeding our desire to do something with him and in the place that I was going to be. But he was coming from walking with Gorrión all the time. And that was we thought that we were going to go to America, and the first week or two, I said, okay, let's just film around the village until we get used to each other, and then, hey, we go to America. But then the whole thing got very complicated, and eventually I think we brought America to the film by filming it more and more like a Western, by having our saloon kind of scene, by having this duel in the bridge of the boat, this duel between man and donkey. So suddenly, we were kind of like importing all the Western codes because we couldn't go to America.
And weirdly, it ends up sort of reminding you of, those Sergio Leone spaghetti westerns, which were probably shot not a million miles away from where you actually are. So there's wheels within wheels. Let's have some questions from the audience. So would anyone got a little query? Yes, that hand right at the back there.
Where was the location? Was it Cabo de Gata in Andalusia, or was it somewhere like that?
So actually what Trevor said is near Cabo de Gata, where the Sergio Leone films were shot. This was from the north of Cordoba to Tarifa. So Tarifa, the Gibraltar Strait. And that's why, when we were in Tarifa, this is a very hot kind of a point of drug dealing. So that very same night, someone has broken some fences and they saw the donkey and they thought that the donkey was full of drug. That's why the next day, say, Gorrión, they just took you from a drug smuggler because at 3 a.m. a policeman came saying, there's something really dodgy here. There's a man with a donkey on the beach and the donkey has saddlebags. And so yeah, it was, I think, Tarifa. Once we reach the ocean, I'm looking for boats. I think when Manolo was able to cross many borders, but when he saw the ocean, he said, "Oh, I don't think I'll go there." And they were happily seeing the boats going away to wherever they are.
I don't know if the term drugs mule kind of exists in Spanish as well, but maybe it was appropriate. We have another question. Yes.
I know the donkey has such a prominent role in it, but I always kind of was watching it as sort of three equal characters with the dog, the donkey, and the person, and I did sort of sense as well maybe the point of view kept shifting to sort of, you could see the dog's view, the donkey's view, and the person's view. Was that something you were consciously thinking of while making it? To see these three characters and each of their points of view?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. That, and there's a fourth one, which has to do with the dog one, which is the height of our eyes when we were kids. I used to do those things with Manolo. Manolo is not such a tall man, but we were like that. We used to see him like a giant. So sometimes the dog POV is shared with our POV, the way we used to see him. Obviously, in a film you shot, or in a film like this, you shot you shoot 80 hours, and you end up having an hour 20 minutes. So in many of those scenes, we also explore the world from our point of view. So yeah, it's an animal point of view, but it's also we used to be his gang, and that's also why we were also attached to this lower POV, but it's well spotted.
Yeah, actually, we were talking about this, that there was actually a different cut of the film, which had a lot more, you were saying, of the lower point of view, but the producers hated it, so that one didn't get too much further.
I think the producers were right.
There you go. We have another question? Anyone else? Yes, thanks.
Hi. Before you said that engage with someone, well, it really reminds me of my father, and he's 83 years old, and I think it's like 80% Manolo, or something like that. When you started with the idea of the journey to US, it was the final destination, because I think the beauty of the movie is about the freedom, not getting there. Did you change, or actually it was your final idea, just getting to the shore and that's it?
Well, we really had some very nice ideas of seeing Manhattan through the donkey's ear, and we knew that the donkey had to be kind of on quarantine either Miami or New York. We imagine Manolo going through Manhattan during the day and then coming back to the airport to report Gorrión, or Manolo and Gorrión walking through Manhattan, or we knew that if we were to go to America, Manolo would engage with the countryside with his high command of English. Very likely we end up talking to Latino people. So therefore it could have become a different film that we were also very interested in, because it would be about countryside. That would be like a country populated of Latino people, and it could be even very relevant in the days that we live. So we had many ideas of very nice things that could happen in America, but we had to adjust, and that's the beauty of documentary, that eventually you end up making something hybrid between reality and your preconceived ideas, and I think we don't hide from our preconceived ideas. So that's why you see that the film is constructed and composed, because we know where the expressivity of Manolo is. So if Manolo, we know how Manolo is gonna phone all the travel agents on his own. And we have to say, no, please wait 2 weeks if you can, so we can film this. And therefore you are kind of directing kind of live. But at the same time, it surprised you all the time. And then we found that the relationship between Manolo and Gorrión was Zafrana and walking, and how society perceived this trio was super expressive as well. But I think a film in America could have been also very nice, you know. I also imagine like Manolo in a cruise, you know, when we wouldn't find boats, imagine a cruise with kind of like a German, retired German people, you know, and Manolo and Gorrión. So basically, a man on a donkey is a winner in many different situations. So it's a pity that we could only make one film. Yeah.
Yes, do.
Oh, sorry, this light is...
It's killing you, yeah.
Yes, I've come here hundreds of times. It's never been on before.
Bring a stone next time.
No, I was only going to... no, I'll make sure it's not on next time. Only going to say... I mean, obviously, he gave up on the idea, quite rightly so. But to what extent was this determination? Was it dependent on the sponsor? I'm supposing this company said, right, yeah, okay, we'll sponsor you. Any amount, you know, we'll do it. Then would he have pursued it, regardless of all the problems and the quarantine and the whole thing, do you think? Do you think in his heart he would have done it if it had been pursued, if the people had sponsored him properly?
Yeah, I think in the process he realized that he wouldn't do it because of Gorrión. He wouldn't like to put Gorrión in one of those containers. I think that was his own realization. But actually, one sponsor that is not reflected in the film was TVE, like Televisión Española. We presented the project, and they decided to come in with like £50,000 or something like that. But their requirement was that we go to America with the donkey. But at that point in the process, we have found that the American journey was very difficult for a man and a donkey. And we thought that was something that was documented. They don't tell you not to do it, but they invite you not to do it by putting all the possible restrictions, which probably many of those are right, but I think we do much worse things. So we decided, okay, we could get the money and go and pretend that this is easy, or we can reject the money and follow what it seems to be what's happening in reality, that it's almost impossible to do it. So in that sense, there was a double realization, one about Manolo and animal care, and the other one with us, that even though we're happy to construct some scenes, there are certain kind of moments when we decide, okay, doesn't seem like a documentary, this, because it would be kind of forgetting how difficult is for a man to travel with his best friend when his best friend happens to be a donkey.
And I mean, the film was shot in 2016. Manolo is still in good health.
Probably walked for 3 hours today. Yeah, and he's so involved as well with us. After we got reconnected with him, the three nephews, we're trying to get some more films, and he became our what's the name of the guy when he's in a company in a practice contract? When someone is working for a company in a
Consultant.
no consultant, it's just like the person that make the coffees almost. You know, it's the youngest person that get into the company.
Like the intern. So
The intern.
Okay.
So he's became our
He's a
intern
mature
now.
intern.
Yeah, and we call him the intern. He's like 75-year-old. He's helping us with all the shit jobs of finding. So he's the intern of a production company.
And Gorrión and Zafrana are still.
Gorrión is very good. Safran unfortunately died this year. She was poisoned in the village. 4 or 5 dogs were poisoned that weekend, and they don't know what happened. Manolo and Mamen had gone to see Mamen's mother in Jaén, and when they came back, one dog was dead, and Zafrana was very, very sick, and they took her to the clinic, and someone has poisoned. She was very, she almost died in the last day of shooting as well. She was living in the age, for sure. But it's a pity.
Anyone got one last question, or we don't know? The woman is giving me the kind of international kind of sign.
The international sign of
that is probably
release these
this evening.
people, please.
Thank you all for coming, and
Thank you.
lovely film, Chico Pereira, everyone.